Who the heck am I? If you don't know me, I'm just John. I've been around a long time. I started doing inspections in 1998. Along the way, picked up a few trophies. I don't put this up here to impress anybody because there's always somebody that knows more than I do, and I recognize that. I only put it up there for contextual reasons so you kind of know where I'm coming from. I didn't start last year. And I know nobody cares anyway, so that's fine. All right. With commercial, there's a whole lot more to commercial than what you might be thinking. Okay, it could be multifamily. It could be a small little 5,000 square foot strip mall type of structure. It could be a building like we're in right now. It can be all kinds of stuff, which is really cool. I haven't done a home inspection since 2020, which is, thank you, Lord. The commercial stuff is so much fun. That's all I do, and my job is a reviewer. Occasionally I get out in the field, they let me out in the field, and I still really, really enjoy it. You're dealing with people that are making decisions based on information, not emotions, and it is so much better. I swear to you, you're gonna love this kind of stuff. And there's just so much variety too. It's a lot of fun. We follow the ASTM E2018 guide, okay? And that's what this class is gonna be based on. I'm gonna pull out, like I said, the bestest stuff for you. I encourage you to read it though. It's very short, I'll show you. It's 21 pages. Like you can literally sit down and read this thing in an afternoon, right? But we use the ASTM, and why you might ask. It's a very good reason. The ASTM is the most quoted standard that there is in the United States and the world, for that fact. ASTM is comprised of tens of thousands of members that contribute, 140 different countries. The ASTM started in the late 1800s. Like, shocker, right? It's been around a very, very long time. So if somebody hired a company, a professional commercial building inspection company to come do like this building, this is massive. Okay, this is going to take a team, right? They're going to be following that standard. This is what engineers follow. Okay, so it's a very, very good standard, and it's very, very basic. Whoops. Anyway, that's why we use it. Okay, that was the last thing I wanted to say was, it's not run by a trade association. Okay, so I'm not here to pick on the trade association. I don't even know what those standards are. Maybe you do. We follow the ASTM because of its history, and it's accepted everywhere. Okay, that's what your professional companies are using. The whole purpose of this is to provide a guide. It's just a guideline. Okay, and to help you basically conduct a walkthrough survey. You're no longer doing inspections. You're doing a walkthrough survey. There are people I know that will do their inspections in a sport coat. That's pretty cool, right? We're stepping it up. We're getting fancy now. You can actually do that. But it provides you this guide. You can be more comprehensive. You can be less comprehensive. That's fine. The guide actually recognizes that. So it provides you this de minimis basis, okay? A minimum base to start from. And you can feel free to put your thumbprint on it as much as you want. So some of the key takeaways, they recognize a lot of stuff, and you read it, you go, hell yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Number one, they recognize that these will be variable, and that's okay. Like I said, you can cover more things, you can include more things, and that's fine. All I want you to do is document it. That's it. I can't see what slides are coming up next, so it makes this a little bit more difficult. But this enables you to offer multiple things, okay? The ASTM is a basis for a property condition assessment, a PCA. However, because they recognize it can be variable, you can do different things, God bless you, that you can also offer something like a CBI, commercial building inspection. Because that standard says that you can do something like that. Wow. So think about that for a sec. You can do the PCA, you get paid a little bit more, at least that's how it works for us. You get paid a little bit more. The CBI, you get paid a little bit less, but you don't have to do as much, okay? Whatever you do that varies from the recommendations. Remember, this is not a law or anything like that. They're recommendations. It's a guide for you to follow. All you got to do is document it. Okay, I used infrared. That's it. That's all you have to do is state what you have done different than what the guide recommends. I recommend sewer scope on every building, every house, everything. Because if you guys do sewer scope, you realize how much stuff that you find like you never would have thought. And there's no way you could ever find it in a home inspection, but you found it with the camera. So you know where I'm coming from. I highly recommend that. But all you have to do is state whatever you're doing differently. That's it. Look, they use some real technical terms here, okay? You might want to write these down. Good, fair, poor. Got it? It's that easy. Can we all do this? Heck yeah. Like, you're going to be shocked how easy this is as I start going through this. Good, fair, poor. We can all do that. Do you notice one thing that's asterisked on all of these? It mentions staying above a certain threshold, okay? That threshold says we use $3,000. Okay, so anything under $3,000 is not expected to be in that PCA. Wow, that's right. You never have to report on a squeaky door or a stuck window again. That's way under that threshold. Now, sometimes you get an older building and the exterior, the seals are failing. You know, the gaskets that go around the outside, the little rubber gaskets around there, they're failing, water's getting in. You have an entire building full of that stuff. Well, now you exceed that threshold, and that's going to be something that's required. But you're just going to describe things very, very plainly, very, very simple. So it's actually even easy to train somebody up, one of your new inspectors or something like that, to do this. They're really, really easy. Now, they will define things like routine maintenance. This is not going to be one of those required elements of the PCA. If it requires, a little bit of slapping a little bit of paint or something like that, that's what's considered routine maintenance, and those are not going to be a required thing. Any type of specialized knowledge it's far below that. Okay. The next thing is short-term cost. You're going to have actually immediate and short-term. Immediate is going to be things that are like dangerous, life safety, ADA, things like that. And then short-term are things that are kind of in between. They're not dangerous, but there's kind of you put some kind of emphasis because they're kind of important, right? But you want it to be done well within that reserve. A reserve time is what I got coming up next year, I believe. That'll be a short term. So we have immediate that's dangerous, and short term, we use the 1 year. Okay, it's not dangerous, but I don't want you to wait. Is there kind of something that you need to get done now? The immediates, anything fire code related, and this is where you don't have that de minimis, that $3,000 threshold. Okay, anything fire is going to be included. Anything ADA. If I got to put up a sign for $150, it's well under that $3,000 threshold, but we're still going to put that in there. Okay, anything ADA. But so you see how simple this is. The thought process going into this. This is very, very easy to follow. Like I said, you're not doing an inspection. You're doing a walkthrough survey. And you read that definition. It tells you it's non-invasive. It's a visual observation. You could literally go through it like this with your hands in your pocket. Could do that. Wow. I can't do a minimum. But remember, the guide says this is a guide, and you can alter if you want. That's not a problem. You can add things, and we just put it in there. It's not a problem. But it tells you don't need special equipment and all that kind of stuff. It actually tells you don't have to run the AC systems. Now, if you were doing this building and there's 500 split systems or something like that, there's no way you'd ever be able to run them all. Make sense? But if I'm in a 5,000 square foot and there's 1, 2 systems, maybe 3, 4, 5, whatever, those, all you got to do is flip it on, right? Make sure the thing is cooling. At least in Florida, that's 10 months of the year, right? You guys north of I-10, you have different problems. So for us, like I want to be comfortable too. So we'll turn them on, make sure I've got a good cooling temp, right? Those things, those type of things I'm going to include. I cannot exclude those personally. But the standard, the guide tells you you don't have to. It's just literally your observations doing this walkthrough survey. This is a 21-page document. It's not a hard read. And this is just cut and paste so you could see all the elements in here. I think by the time we're done, you're going to go, my God, I should have been doing this a long time ago. I get it. Sometimes it sounds scary to do these. Ooh, it's a PCA. Yeah, it's a freaking inspection, right? I'm bringing this down to a 5th grade level. Am I not, right? Because that's what I operate on. But they break everything down. The purpose, everything has a guideline, okay, bumpers. And they tell you how to base your processes, the things you have to report on, the things you don't have to report on. They break it down, and I'm going to get into some of these things, but I wanted to mention them right up front. There's certain players in the game, so they give you definitions for consultant and field observer and reviewer and those kind of things. They give you the guidelines on taking pictures during your walkthrough, how to write the report, what to include in the report, all those kind of things. If you go all the way down to the end here, you see where it gets into the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. This is where you start differentiating big time from a home inspection. The ADA stuff is really pretty easy, and I will show you exactly how easy all of this stuff is when we get there. But keep that in mind. When I had my own company, we never did the ADA. And when we sold our business about 2.5 years ago, and I work now in the commercial division for the company that bought us, and my boss is like, no, we do ADA on everyone. And I questioned him. He says, that is the standard. Okay, when you step your game up like this, if you hired a professional company, they're all going to include it. He says, that's just the way it is. And I said, okay, it's a standard of care, in other words, which is a legal definition. It's a standard of care. So we include it, but it's actually really easy because it's just like everything else. You run into the same thing over and over and over again, and you memorize it after the first few times. But we will touch on that. When we get through the fun stuff, the bestest stuff with the PCA, I want to get into ADA, elevators, and fire sprinkler systems. Okay, we'll hit some of that because again, it sounds a little intimidating, but it really isn't. Everything I'm going to do today is a 5th grade level. Pretty easy. All right. So the players in this game, you have the consultant. That's going to be the rainmaker, right? The company that gets the jobs, that makes things happen. Field observer is going to be the person doing the inspections, the inspector, okay? But they're field observers now. We have fancy names that come along with the fancy PCA, right? And then the reviewer, and that's my primary job now. I basically help prep the guys or gals for the job. And when they're done, I do the review and we corroborate until we get the best product we can for the client and it goes out. And at first I'm thinking, man, this is a process. And again, my boss is an engineer and he says, this is how it's done out there in big girl world. Gotcha. And it has come in so handy. The really nice thing is if you send some, a lot of you are going to be afraid about sending one of your people out because they're not going to do as good a job as you, right? I know everybody's thinking that. You don't have to tell me. I get it. But you still have control. You can still get the people out there because you're going to review it if you're going to be the reviewer. But those are your primary the players in the game. The cool thing is you can be all of those. If you are a single operator or you're going to have a single person do these for you, you can have different roles. You can play all of them. Pretty cool, right? So it's actually very, very easy to even get started. So the one thing that they put in there, if you remember, we had all the things that's included in that PCA. One of them is qualifications. They want you to put the qualifications of who's doing whose role and participating in this project. It's basically like a resume, but we use this form right here. It's just very, very generic. Everybody uses the same exact thing. So when we get a new guy or gal, I send them this one and say, fill in your stuff. So the content will be a little bit different, but the layout is identical. Make sense? So when we put all the players, I'm always in there as the reviewer. We have one for the field observer, and then we have one for my boss. And in South Carolina, anybody from South Carolina, by the way? Nobody? Okay, that's a whole different ballgame. They require an engineer to be part of the inspection. So we actually have an engineer on staff so his will go in there. But it's all it is. It's a very, very simple little form. And again, it's making you look a lot better too. This does not look like a home inspection. Now I will say, remember, you can do a PCA, you can do a CBI, a commercial building inspection. It's a little bit less. For those, we use Spectora on the CBIs, and I'll show you the software we use for the PCAs. Really cool stuff. Okay, the components that you're looking at, again, this is just breaking this down, 5th grade level, right? You're going to have documentation review and interviews, and I'm going to touch on those, the documents that you're going to have to request, solicit for, and go over. The walkthrough survey, right? The cost to remedy. I'll get into that too, because I know that sounds extremely intimidating sometimes. Like, yeah, what's it going to cost for a TPO roof on a building like this? Oh my God. It's easy. It's super easy. I'll show you how easy. And the property condition report is your report. We only use fancy words here, right? Good, fair, poor, property condition report, field observer, those kind of things. So the walkthrough survey, remember, it's an outline. It gives you a procedure to follow, and that's all it is a person going out documenting physical deficiencies. And we're going to put these all in categories, right? We have immediate stuff, we have short term, and then we have reserve term. And we use 12 years. I'll show you that in a second. And there's the standard even recognizes the variability. Your opinion will be a little bit different than mine, and yours will be a little bit different than ours, and that's okay. The document reviews and interviews. Documents that you're going to compile include a lot of different stuff. So we compile parcel information, flood information, building code violations, fire code violations, building permits, a lot of different stuff. I'll show you a flash of those. And it sounds intimidating, but I'm going to show you how easy this is. And then part of my job is Mike collects some of it, I collect some of it, and I review all the stuff. And at my age, I'm a whole lot happier sitting in my air conditioning house, home office, doing that than I am crawling around buildings. But I get to review all those things and prep the guys and the gals for them. So this is because you have to solicit for some of this information, and this is how we do it in our software. We use FOIL letters, which is it's just a letter that says, "Please give me information." Okay. Now we have time to create this letter and put it together to sound a lot more professional because we're fancy professionals now, right? And I'll show you how easy it is. And Mike handles all that stuff for us. And we have in the appendices part of our doing the PCA now, not a CBI. We have at the end there in the appendices a place for a pre-survey questionnaire. All right. We ask information. That's just like a standard residential seller's disclosure. But we ask for it, so we get it directly. We don't have to beg a real estate agent for it. And then, so that goes in there. The agency requests, that's going to be your fire, building permits, building violations, anything like that goes in there. Other supporting documentation. Actually, that's where the building permit stuff goes in. But it's just broken up like that. So you see, we've got open building permit. There's one, sorry. You don't always get responses. Actually, a lot of times we don't get responses. But there was a response that goes in there. city requests for information. Uh, in, we use build facts. Okay, I am not a huge fan of build facts. I'll be honest with you. It's never as accurate as you doing it yourself. However, we are in like 7 different states, and it's kind of hard to do the individual thing anymore. We have to have systems. So ultimately, you're going to want to do something like that, build facts. Maybe they'll get better over time. Maybe there'll be another product in the future. Who knows? But that's a system for us. You know, Mike pops in the address, gets the report, throws it in the appendices, and bam, we're good. We get the flood maps, parcel information. And there's another response, the fire code response. So sometimes you get those, and I had one time, it was like 30-something pages, and I'm reading through all this stuff, and you got it. But it's not hard. It's really easy. And then when I notice something, well, I prep the inspector for it. Hey, this broke, and they had to fix that, and whatever. They're aware of it. But it all goes nice and neat in its own little packages at the end there. Interviews. Okay, you guys know what it's like when you go to an apartment, a condo, or a single-family residence, and there's a tenant in there. Like, they vomit information, right? It's awesome. So interviews are going to be anybody that you can find. Now, you're going to have a lot of people, just like a home, they don't want the tenant to know that they're selling it yet. You have your standard comeback, right? This is for insurance purposes, right? Yeah, same exact thing. But this is a fancy PCA now, right? So, but you say the exact same thing. Oh, I'm here for insurance. Hey, you got anything you want me to make sure I get in here that they fix for you? Yeah, man, that light switch sparks, that dang roof leak. They just keep painting over it, and they won't fix. Oh, yeah, thank you. And you get all kinds of stuff, and it makes you look like a rock star. And all you had to do was ask. It's so simple, right? All right, where was I? Oh, so it's anybody and anybody that I can find. Sometimes they'll send the building maintenance guy or gal out with you, and they just come. And they say, oh, yeah. When they start giving you information like, I'm constantly doing something, okay, this is a big red flag. This goes in your report, right? It's probably a system or a component that's going to need to be replaced because they keep Band-Aiding it. But you get so much information. You get my drift, right? Okay, the pre-survey questionnaire. Again, this is kind of like it is a seller's disclosure, but fancy words here, only fancy words. Pre-survey questionnaire. This is what we use. And it's just asking them questions, but we've come up with this document so it's easy for them to just go through, click, click, click. They can write in some explanations and stuff, and they sometimes do. A lot of times you don't even get the stuff back, but it's documented in there that the request was out there, and we did or we didn't get it. And when we get it filled out, that's part of your report. Very simple stuff here, right? But so you can work on one of these on your own. Just come up with the same type of thing. Have chat help you with it, right? Okay, physical deficiencies. Now, these are going to be things that have to be repaired. But remember, we have this de minimis that we're working on. I'm not worried about the itty-bitty, nitpicky crap. Don't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. But it's got to be something that is going to be above a regular handyman, something that requires knowledge, maybe a specialist or a contractor or something like that. So that's all we're looking at, above that de minimis only. And the reserve term we use, well, actually, the reserve term is things that are going to need to be replaced within that time frame, and we use 12 years, okay? For the de minimis, I already told you that, we're using $3,000. Okay, got it? So you're out there as a field observer, you're looking for physical deficiencies, putting them in little baskets, immediate, short-term, and reserve. Now, this does not say that you cannot report something that's wrong, broke, doesn't work, whatever, but it doesn't fall within the guidelines. We do that all the time. Hey, this is wrong, broke, doesn't work. However, the cost is considered insignificant and not reported in the cost table. I at least just let them know out of courtesy some things, right? So that's going to be entirely up to you, but there's our guidelines right there for, let me put it this way too. So if you have a roof and it's only got, it's 2/3 of the way through its life, if that expected useful life is within that reserve term, I'm going to have to put it in there and cost it out. Does that make better sense? I think that's a better explanation. So I got something that doesn't need to be fixed today. The roof's still got life on it, but it will need to be replaced within that reserve term, okay? And you know what's something I just remembered I forgot I should have put in here? There's a tool called Google Earth Pro. It's different than Google Earth. Google Earth Pro, and it will require you to do a download. It's free, doesn't cost anything, and it's got a couple tools in there. So when I have a building like this, and I'm in Florida, but the building is in Arizona or South Carolina, it doesn't make any difference. I look it up in Google Earth Pro, and it's got a little measurement tool. So I measure how big that roof is. I can see the picture, and I can see that it's a TPO/PVC type, and I have a price for that. And before the field observer ever goes out, I can calculate that, because I'm reviewing all the permits, right? I can see that it was installed 18 years ago. Okay, you're at the end. Life expectancy, whatever we have for TPO, 20 years, call it 20 years, because I forgot right now. I'll cost it out for year 2. I've got the measurement from Google Earth Pro, and I have a cost per square, and bam, I put it in there. See how easy? Like, damn. Should have been doing this a long time ago, right? All right. Remember, fancy words only. Your report is a property condition report, PCR. They put a name to it. So that's going to be all of this stuff, the request for information, the building code violations, the questionnaire, all those things, plus your walkthrough survey information. So that's what they call it. Now, it does include opinions of cost. This is a standard of care, is you're going to have to cost all this stuff out. And I know that if you've never done any of this stuff before, it does sound intimidating because you don't know how much a chiller costs. You don't know how much a new generator is going to cost because you don't do that stuff in residential, right? It's not hard. It's really, really easy. Trust me. You will cost those things out. There's some ways to do it. But remember, there's guidelines here. So we're not going to do anything that is that's considered routine maintenance stuff, okay, that a handyman can fix. None of those kind of things. Anything decorative or cosmetic, don't have to do any of those things. So right off the bat, they start chiseling it away for you so you can focus on the real things that need to go in there. But you can see anything if they're putting plants out because they're selling the place. None of that kind of stuff gets costed out. So all of a sudden your scope just got smaller, right? Does that make you feel better? Awesome. When you do this, you look a lot sexier. There's not a lot of sexy in here. All right. So this is how we do it in our software. We use something called Parcel from EDR. You do too? I use EDR. Awesome. Love this tool. Initially, it'll be new and it'll be a little odd, but you'll get used to it really, really quick, and you're going to love it. I promise. It does cost money. Okay, so depending on where you are in your walk in this professional career, you may or may not spring for something like this, but it does make you look a whole lot more professional. Right now, you're not competing with all the engineers. They're doing buildings like this. They're not messing around with that 10,000 square foot strip mall for the most part. You know what I'm saying? So your primary competitor is your next door neighbor home inspector. And they're all going out with the same old Spectora or Home Gauge or whatever they're using, and they're producing a home inspection report where somebody scratched out the word home and put building. Okay, it's not hard to differentiate yourself, and this is a huge differentiator. But my point is, here's how we cost things out, and it's made it real easy. So I hit the little button here, whatever section we're in. I hit the little button, and a drop-down menu comes out there. Some of the things that you're going to do that's entirely different than a home inspection is site work stuff, the parking lot, the condition of the parking lot. And you're going to have to cost out how much it's going to cost to restripe and coat those things. So if I click that and that pops up, restripe and recoat, click on that, it populates the expected useful life for me. I have put in effective age already. Right now there's 0. So the building is 27 years old, whatever. So it does the math for me. Then it says how much. And it might be, the unit might be square foot, squares, lump sum, like it could be a lot of different things. So I put the quantity, whatever that is. If I'm Google Earth Pro and I see that there's, I've got 27 squares of roofing material, I put in 27 right here. The unit cost is already in there for me. Yeah, that was easy, right? My boss put together the price stuff before I ever got there. So all that stuff is in there for me. And it pops it all out, and then it'll give you this cost. And what it's doing is asking you, well, where in the reserve term do you want to put this item? Okay? Now, if I have an immediate, remember, anything ADA, anything fire code, or anything dangerous, I'm going to tell it immediate. If it really needs to be done, but not today, not tomorrow, I can go short term or anywhere in between and click it, and it creates, so there's three items in here, and it puts all that stuff in there and costs it all out for me. So you see here is, whatever that says, I can't see it. Concrete. Okay, pavement. Yeah, we have to do this in year 1 and year 7 because the life expectancy on that is only 6 years. But it does it all for me. Now, if you don't have something fancy like this, the EDR parcel, you can use price repair pricer. Do you know that? They charge $200 for a commercial report, and they'll do that for you. Don't worry about paying $200, y'all. Put it in your price to begin with if you need to. But this is a system, and it's going to be a consistent system. If you're not prepared because you've never done any of this kind of stuff, man, it's a really good place to start, right? Until you start. What's that? Per area? Yeah. They do it all geographic based, absolutely. So you could all do all that. I will tell you one thing. I'd recommend you tell them only do the major stuff because they will cost out every drywall screw. You know, it gets pretty granular. So just tell them to do the big stuff. But $200, yep, per inspection. But again, don't worry about it. Throw it in the price. You're doing a home inspection for $500, and you're doing this strip mall for $1,500 or $2,500 or $3,500, whatever it is, right? A couple $100, no big deal. And it's a system. It's a consistent system, and that structure is paramount in your business, right? Yeah, send them the PDF. Bam. It's real easy. Okay, sometimes there's gonna be stuff that you don't know. You are gonna need some kind of a specialist or something like that. And the guideline says, okay, you don't have to put a cost on it, but I hate leaving people hanging. You know what I mean? It's not like a home inspection where you say further destructive investigation required and leaves people like, well, what do I do now? Who do I call? What do I do? So we have a very simple thing where I can just put a number on it. If it's something, one we use all the time. We get there and there are so many ADA violations and non-compliance issues. There's just way too many. Well, I just click the button that says recommend a full ADA evaluation. And I have the poetic license to go $3,000, $5,000, $7,000, however big, the bigger the building, the more money. And I just put that number in there. So people aren't left hanging. They know that they're going to have to cut somebody a check to go do the specialized thing. So, like I said, we use our Spectora for the CBIs, the commercial building inspections, and EDR parcel for the PCAs. So you can still use what you're using right now to at least get started, but in the CBIs, we do not cost out, which is cool. Oh, there's another one I should tell you about, HomeWise. I think it's WYZE. I think. Search around, you'll find it. That's another way to cost things out, and it's really super easy. How much does it cost to? And it'll pull it up for you. But we do cost things out, like I showed you on the PCA. Okay, photographs. They even have guidelines on taking photographs. A lot of it is going to be contextual, okay? The first thing we do when we get there is get all the elevation shots. And there's a special place for the elevation shots within our report. Then it's a lot of macro, micro stuff. If you ever, and you follow the same protocol in residential, if I take a picture of the broke thing and my picture's only this big and somebody calls me tomorrow, I'm not going to remember. So if I take the big picture, this is the window that's leaking, and they see where you're at for context, and then a picture of the defect, it's a lot smoother. It's a lot more professional, right? So they kind of have those kind of guidelines, but you see how it starts mentioning site work. So we don't just pull the ladder out and jump on the roof, okay? My personal preference is I get there and I do a walk around of the property all the way, wide, because I got to look at the swales and culverts and those type of things, the water management, and I'm getting the big picture, right? How things are performing. The parking lot, that's a big one. They almost all, 99% of the time, you're going to have to recommend restriping, recoding. So then you start getting into your mechanical roofing, electrical plumbing, et cetera. Now, they do, again, in the appendix, you can add stuff. And there's a whole section, guidelines section on adding stuff. Like I said, sewer scope. You sell sewer scopes? Go for it. Absolutely, upservice that. Actually, when I had my company, my personal one, before we sold, I included sewer scope on every one of them. Just did it. Because it's so much more complete, it's so much more, it's a differentiator. But they recognize that and give you guidelines on adding things. So sometimes you will have to get a specialist. I got to do this hotel, 4 or 5 story, and it was messed up building science wise. It was really bad. And they absolutely have to call in. I recommend GCI. They are professional building forensic engineers and stuff like that. So I could hire them and put a piece on it. I could just hand over the recommendation to the buyer as well. But sometimes you're going to need specialized tools, right? To do a forensic on that hotel, they're going to be doing some destructive stuff, and they're going to be cutting things open and stuff like that. Other services. So there's guidelines for anything that I'm not even going over now. Like I said, limited time, I'm pulling out the bestest stuff. Okay, the ADA. So we're doing good here. At the end of the ASTM, now you have to purchase that. Okay, if you want the current one, you have to purchase it. I don't remember, $150 or. Don't quote me. It's not $1,000 or anything like that. When you purchase it, your name comes on the bottom. Okay, so if you ever find, say, an older version online, and you can find somebody's got older versions up there, you'll find it. There's always somebody's name on it, whoever paid for that thing. So be careful about including anything like that. It's got somebody else's name on it. But in the back, it has a checklist we call a baseline for ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. It's just a baseline, so it excludes a lot of stuff. When you get into the full ADA, it is very, very, very detailed. Okay, and you're going to spend a tremendous amount of time. So this is really something above and beyond most everybody. If you want to go for it, go for it. Go get certified to do these full ADAs, but they're very, very time consuming. How do you get certified? Google it. You'll find a way to do that. But we're just doing the baseline, and it's pretty darn robust, if that's a good word. It covers a lot of stuff, but it just doesn't get real granular. So you can start off with this right there. It's printed for you. And I like having an authoritative source, right? It's not John's version of the ADA field observations, right? I'm following the standard. This right here you can download for free, and it has almost everything in that baseline with pictures. See, guys, right? You know what I'm talking about. We never open up the instructions on how to put the stuff together until we're frustrated, right? So it's got pictures, and I'll show you some of those. So it makes it really, really easy, okay? With the parking and ADA, you have regular accessible spots, and then you have van accessible spots. And the quantity and all that stuff is in there, how many of each you have to have, and it gives you pictures, how wide they have to be, the clearances and all that kind of stuff, guardrail requirements and all those kind of things. So this is a job we did in Arizona, and this is a typical contextual picture for context start, right? This is my accessibility area, or parking, accessible parking area. This is the first time I've ever seen this type of, yeah, right? It's a little bit different. Does it look odd? Or let me ask, does anybody else, wherever you come from, have that kind of symbol instead of the white one on blue? Nobody? Yeah. Okay, apparently those are done in a few different states. My boss said he's seen them in a few. Everybody's familiar with the little white one that's not racing, right? That's what you typically see. So it's kind of interesting anyway. But it's showing the spots. It's showing the signs. There's a certain height, 60 inches to the bottom of the sign. I got a good contextual picture here. Easy stuff, right? Now, the number of spaces is going to be dictated on the total quantity of spaces that you have. So that's going to be one of those things from Google Earth Pro. Sometimes I just physically count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now I know how many there are. And I can look on here. So if I've got 172 spaces, well, I have to have 6 regular and 1 van for a total of 7 accessible spaces. So in my prep work, I tell the inspector, you're going to make sure you got 7, and one of them's got to be a van. Okay, the van is a little bit wider, 16 feet wide, as opposed to a regular 13-foot accessible space. Okay, the van is 16. So for every 6, you have to have 1 van is basically what it breaks out to. So we can all count. We've all got that skill. See, I told you this is so easy, 5th grade level, right? Damn, this is exciting. Like I said, the sign's got to be 60 inches to the bottom, okay? Look at that. Does that look like 60 inches? This one here, a little less. While I'm thinking of that, don't use your tape measure in your pictures. I do it so I have stuff for presentation, okay? When you start doing that, you're getting into that territory where you're doing a full ADA, and it's an entirely different animal. It's very, very granular, okay? So don't do that. I even have a little pitch gauge thing that I put on ramps to see how steep they are, but don't put those things in the pictures. So when you see that, it's just me. But anyway, you look at those, and those are just a little bit short, right? All right. Wow, never heard of that. Well, number one, you're in Portland. That's your first problem. Self-explanatory. No, I'd never heard of that. It's interesting. Hmm. I have never read that in the standards. Huh. Interesting. Well, you look at this, and when we see something like that down south, we say, bless your heart. Okay? So they tried. Yeah, so he's saying, does the local supersede the federal? I'd say no. Federal law is federal law. And that's, yeah, the ADA is federal law. So I don't know how they get around that. Interesting. Very cool. Well, one of the things is you got to have a clear path. It's got to be 36 inches wide everywhere. Now, besides other issues with this, the pitch and the condition and all that caca, we've stuck the propane distribution thingy right in the way. So, bam, there's a violation. But that's not hard, is it? Bless their heart. There's a few other things you're going to write. The steep, actually, I have a picture coming up. I'll show you. You ever wonder why they have those funny-looking overhang? Well, it's because it's required. That's why. So you'll start seeing these and recognizing them. For parking spaces, there's a whole bunch of things that you're going to have to look out for. But again, it starts getting easy. A few of them. That's all you're going to need. They can't extend into the access aisle at all. Period. It has to be a curb cut, and there are very specific dimensions and pitches and stuff like that on those curb cuts. Okay, so. You will see all kinds of creative stuff going on. Very, very common violations, non-compliance stuff that you see with parking spots. Of course, you have to think. If you're in a chair and you're trying to navigate through something and there's an obstruction, like a threshold, well, there's very specific heights. Okay? Again, don't use your tape measure. But this one was really funny because this was an attorney's office. And that's their front door, right? Oh, this is good. This is good. Another very, very common. If it's got a service counter, it can't be more than 36 inches. And that's very, very, very common. No one's going to do anything about it. I don't care, but it's one of those things that should be in your report. This is another very, very, very common one. There's very specific requirements for that sign, the location and all that kind of stuff. Hardware, though, is a big one. Okay, now, like if I find this sign and it's on the door, okay, is it right? No. Is it substantially right? Yeah. So pick and choose your battles. One of those, but the hardware you can't compromise. Okay, you have to be able to operate it with like a club fist is basically the rule. Okay, no grab and twist type of things. The bathrooms have a ton of different things, but again, they're not hard. There's requirements again for the hardware. The grab bars got to be one behind, one beside. There's certain locations they have to be certain heights. The plumbing all has to be protected, right? That's why you see that all the time because it has to be. Again, the hardware on the faucet, the height of the towel dispensers. 48. These things will start sticking in your head when you start doing them. But there's a lot of different things. And get that book I showed you. It's a free download for ADA stuff. Urinals. Okay, we don't see a ton of urinals, but you're going to have to know the dimensions, the heights of those. How much clearance is underneath, right? When you get into larger facilities that have multiple, instead of just a toilet room, there's toilet stalls. There's dimensions on those, and you see the one down there at the end sticking out. It's an ambulatory space, okay? They're slightly different, okay? But you just, remember, we got pictures. So it'll show you, got to be 35 to 37 wide, and the locations of the bars are different. All the other, on a toilet room, behind and beside, and now these are on each side. But simple stuff. All right, is that cool stuff? It's not hard, right? Hopefully you're sitting here, you're feeling emboldened, right? Make me feel good. Shake your head. All right. Elevators. Don't have a ton of them, and they're not hard. You don't have to pawn these off on another contractor every time you run across them. because you're just doing baseline stuff. All right? The very first thing you're going to need to do is get familiar with the types of elevators. The good thing is these are going to be what you are probably going to find 99% of the time, hydraulic and traction. And these can be grossly expensive to modernize. I'm getting excited. I'll get to modernization here in a second. Never mind. Familiarize yourself with what kind they are. Hydraulics will have a hydraulic room, and we'll look at some of that equipment. The traction, it may be something up in non-accessible space, non-public accessible space that you get into. They call them machine roomless.
John?
Yes. I know this is only the second time I've ever seen these, but when you guys leave here, you're gonna. I guarantee you're all gonna be looking at the elevators and looking at some of these things that we're gonna look at right now. You can't help it. All right. Here's the basic process. Okay, you start out with your visual inspection. Does it have the audible and visible notifications? Okay, out here it goes. What does it say? Car H. Car J, you can hear it. So it's got the audible, it's got a visual. The interior components, what kind of shape are those in? Especially flooring. We'll show you in a second. If you get lucky enough where you can see the machinery, like you can get above a car or below a car in a pit or something like that, you're looking for basic stuff. Does something look wore out? That's it, baseline. You're not going to measure the depth of the cog on the gears. It's not that difficult. So we get a visual, then a functional. You're going to ride it. That's pretty tough, right? Congratulations, you're all qualified. You're going to do that, but you're going to start to notice where the controls are. Okay. Another big one is leveling. The car has to be on the same level as the hoistway, the floor that you step out on. Right? Otherwise, it's what? It's a trip hazard, and it makes it hard for a chair to get in and out, right? So you'll start noticing those. And when you start seeing those, well, now all of a sudden, it's a defect that you're going to call out, and if there's enough of them, you call for modernizations. The auto-open feature, when you do this, and the door opens, because you have to have those, that's why. And anything unusual is not right, okay? If it jerks, if it's making noise, okay, those are all signs that there's something wrong. And guess what? We don't even have to know. All you got to do is say, hey, your stuff sucks. The job is really that easy. Then the compliance things. You're going to be looking for inspection records. You're looking for the certificate, the capacity. 2,500 pounds, 3,500 pounds, whatever it is. Well, it's all written right there for you. They actually carve it into the elevator for you. It's really simple. Things like a fire extinguisher in a hydraulic room. You'll be looking for those. They come in a lot of different sizes. Okay, you don't have to memorize any of this stuff, but if you see there's one thing common in all of those, 36 inches access. You didn't have to memorize another number because we already know that you have to have 36 inches of access everywhere. All the way through, from the parking spot to the front door to the bathroom to the doctor's office that they got to go into. Everything, right? 36 inches wide. So that's easy. When there's an alteration to one car, every other car that goes to that level has to have the same alteration. Ooh, they got like 7 of them here. That gets expensive real fast. Really, really, really fast. But it's all about a consistent level of accessibility. Okay, so you can't have one that's modern and works and the other one that jerks and it's at a level and all kinds of stuff. You have to do all of them at the same time. Now, of course, standards apply to things that already exist. We're inspecting buildings that are already there, right? And there is a whole compliance scope for that, and I will show you where that comes from here in a second. But what's that? Correct. Good question. So he says, hey, there's passenger cars and there's freight cars. Freight cars, well, you ruined my surprise. It's coming up. Freight cars do not, what's the word, are not part of the accessibility stuff. Those are exempted, okay? Can you imagine going to a construction site? You know, they have the elevators for the workers and try to make that wheelchair accessible, you know? So there's certain things that are not included, and freight cars that are meant, they're specifically meant to be just for staff and freight and that kind of stuff. Those do not contribute to the accessibility thing. But the standard is an ASME A17.1. Good luck finding free information online. There's very, very little. This is another standard that you have to purchase, okay, that you have to buy. Good thing is there's enough information out there to you can get by. But that's where all the rules come from, okay? And of course, it's full of ADA stuff. Not just the modernization and leveling, all that kind of stuff. There's a whole bunch of ADA. There we go. Freight elevators cannot be used to satisfy the requirement for accessibility. Okay, so those are exempt. You see here they have some labeled staff only, service only, or whatever it says on there. Okay, those would be exempt from the accessibility part. So all the passenger cars have to comply. Yeah. They're usually bigger and padded and all kinds of stuff, right? For crazy people. Now, there is a ton of stuff here. How high the braille sticks out, how far apart the letters and stuff are. You don't have to memorize any of that stuff. The point you need to take away from this is there are requirements. And the good thing, it comes from a manufacturer and they comply with everything, right? So somebody installs the thing that the manufacturer made. So it's rarely wrong that you find that you're going to find something like this that's not correct. Okay, just recognize that you're supposed to have these things. And when you look through that ADA book I was showing you, that free thing, it explains all of those things. You're always one step ahead of me. Keep ruining my surprises up here. So there's a picture right out of a report. Remember, I have a larger picture, the macro, a contextual picture, and I've got a whole bunch of stuff in there. Capacity, 2,000 pounds. Your emergency stuff has to be at the bottom, by the way. There's the communication. It's got braille. It's got all that stuff. You want to see something interesting? Every single elevator always has a star next to the one. No, that's what everybody thinks. It's actually because Dallas Cowboys are the #1 team in the country. Hey, what? Look at that. Boy, that was right in the gut, right? You're welcome, damn it. That's the star rating. There you go. Yeah. Man, this is actually a really good question. There is so much information. If you go to Google and you start entering in elevator accidents, there's a ton of them. Way more than, like, it's never, like, I'm not a doomsday prep or anything like that, but I've never been into the gore type of stuff, but there's some stories. 99% of those are because of equipment that's not being maintained because they're not getting inspected. So you will find a lot of them where those certificates are expired. They have not had them inspected. And guess what? That's a defect. Check, right? That's one of the things that you're responsible for looking at, but it's just a thing on the list. It's easy, but good point. Uh-huh. Yeah, for employees, if you have an employee that with some kind of disability, you're supposed to provide all that stuff, but you don't have to proactively provide it. is the way I understand it. Okay, so if you got something that says different, let's talk, please. Very well could be. Good question. I'll just be honest with you. I don't know. The good thing is, like he was saying, they're usually big, and so they're going to be compliant in that. But I would still take a freight elevator ride to make sure it's leveling and that kind of stuff, right? I would do that. But as far again, everything has a height requirement, because if somebody's in a chair, you can't put something that only Hank can reach, right? You know, love a short guy. So there's height requirements there, but there's also, you have to have a clear space in front of those controls, okay? What is the definition of a clear space? Well, it's right there, 48 by 30. Why? Well, because people put plants and cigarette butt, trash cans and whatever else in front of the controls, and if you can't get to it, if you don't have the clear space requirement, 48 by 30, then that's a defect. Now, sometimes it's as easy as moving a trash can, no big deal, right? Yeah, it is kind of common. You find stuff, because I get it, it makes sense. They always put trash cans there so you don't take the trash on the elevator, right? Okay, visible and audible signs. You should have all those the signals. Again, it's very rare not to have all that stuff. You will display the Cowboys are number one on the first floor of every elevator. Here's another one out of that book that you can get for free. Okay, this one actually a lot of them in there. They have. It's in a survey style presentation. So you can go, is there a sign, right? You can just go right down the list and check them off. Maybe make your form look just like this. Hey, it's not a bad idea. So it's really, really easy. Hey, you've done this your whole life, right? Now there's because it's in the Big Book of Rules. It says thou shalt have auto open, okay? There are some critical areas which they define as 5-inch and 29-inch, but honestly, they're more of a curtain style detector where it runs from very low to very high, right? So when you get guys like Hank, it'll still pick it up. And you know how you jump on the elevator and you frantically pushing that closed door, and it won't go? Well, there's a reason, because it has to stay open for so long. It's all in the Big Book of Rules. So punching that thing like a madman or madwoman ain't going to do you any good. If it's a side approach or a frontal approach to the buttons, there's certain height requirements, right? Again, pull the little book out. It's a thing on the list. It's easy stuff. And your emergency stuff, that's the most critical. You will always see those at the bottom of the panel, right? I think I put that picture back. Oh, it's coming up again. I had that picture in here where it showed the fire call, emergency call stuff down at the bottom. And then the delay, okay? So they all have Braille. You're ruining my surprise again. That's coming next, okay? So I won't repeat his question. I don't want to ruin it for everybody. There we go. So you can see how your emergency, your communication, and your hey, I'm stuck button, all down at the bottom, because it has to be. I've never seen one that wasn't, anyway. So communication, I'm glad you asked. It's in the Big Book of Rules. It says, thou shalt have a way to communicate when you're stuck. Okay? Now, read that, and it says, handsets which are vulnerable to vandalism ain't allowed. I'm sorry, this is fancy class. Prohibited. Okay? They are prohibited because of vandalism. So you get in the elevator and you got something like that. Hey, well, it's what they call existing nonconforming. Okay, at the time it might have been legal, okay, no longer compliant, so I would report it as existing nonconforming. But it's also going on my list of reasons why I might recognize modernization. Got it? Making sense. So this is telling me it's old. Could be. Is that what the Cowboys use when they need a touchdown? Yeah, that's from 1977, right? I get it. Okay, I mentioned leveling already. First of all, the gap in between, okay, it must be large enough to accept a cell phone, okay, first of all. The other thing is how level these two are. It's within a half inch. That's why, like, it always is, and you just don't even realize it, okay? Now, it's real easy to look down and use your foot. And when you get older like me, that comes in real handy, so I don't have to bend over, right? I could just feel it. Sometimes, that one, the hotel I did in Sarasota, my God, it was several inches, big time. Good thing is I had a list of very good reasons on why I'm recommending modernization, and I will get to that in a sec, because you're going to be blown away. This one, I show up, and this is what is there. It says, hey, caution, dummy. You might trip and fall. Thank you. See how easy this is? Sometimes they leave you notes. Yeah, darn right, liability. That was super easy. I got pictures of that coming up too. Yeah, it's all about money. It's all about money. If you have carpet in there, a lot of times it's tile, but if you have carpet, it's got to be glued and screwed. It can't be loose or there's a trip hazard or anything like that. It's got to be firm, stable, non-slip, all those kind of things. But like this is just common sense, right? You know, it's one of those things. You've been going up and down stairs for decades. And when the riser heights are excessive, you feel it. Same thing with elevators. You're going to get on and go, something's weird. You're onto something. Follow your hunch, right? Same thing with the pile height of the carpet, okay? You have limits on that because you don't want, dear God, we want to bring back shag of the 70s, right? Something like that might not be compliant. If you've got tile, again, you're going to have a point where it's too high. Think like you're in a wheelchair, okay? But there's pictures. Remember, there's pictures in this book, so you don't even have to memorize anything. You just have to own it, and it's free, so nobody has an excuse. All right, so again, that process, start with your visual stuff, your functional stuff, and your compliance stuff. So it's just a real simple process. Cool? Makes sense? Awesome. All right, a few pictures. So capacity, that's a good pick. Now that hadn't been inspected in a couple years. That'll go in my report. Sometimes they're down low, but it's easy just to take pictures of these kind of things, right? If you can get in a mechanical room, absolutely request it and absolutely go in it, all right? They have to be well lit. There's got to be a fire extinguisher. There's usually a book in there, and you can flip open the book, and you can see that, you know, Joe signed off on this date. He had to replace this component, right? I'd take a picture. He replaced a major component, or if they're not too long, you kind of read through them all, and if you're seeing something that's consistently breaking or whatever, that would be a red flag. So you take a few minutes and read the records there. Of course, if you find a hydraulic stand on the ground, that'd be a good one to document. If you're doing phase ones, right, Hank? That's something you got to look for. Hydraulic leaks. And anything visual, right? So if you get inside, you don't have to memorize the name of it's a shiv, it's a side post. It's just so you recognize and take pictures and look for the obvious things. We're not mechanics, okay? This I've seen multiple times, and it's over your head. That's looking straight up, and it's a controller for the door. Helps the door open and close, and I just look for anything obvious. Put that in there. When you get in a control room and you start seeing capacitors, you know this sucker's old, all right? This is 80s vintage. Okay, back when the last time the Cowboys won, yes, exactly. This is just real simple. It's old technology, and this is probably time for a modernization. This is that same place where it had the sign on the door that said, "Hey, I'm broke. Thank you." And I look inside there and like, holy, matter of fact, there's a picture of it. I mean, yeah, this is just so old, it needs a modernization. It just makes the decisions easier, right? You can't require anything of anybody, right? But your report is going to reflect. They can't force you to replace if you can fix. Yeah. So this is a hydraulic pump. There's a pump in there, and it pushes hydraulic fluid in there and makes the post go up and down. Makes the car go up and down, right? Real simple. So, well, there's a sign of a previous leak. Picture, can statement, done. Piece of cake. Okay, modernization. I keep talking about that. This is the process of modernizing. Wow, who'd have thunk with a name like that? But it's not just the mechanical stuff, it's efficiency things, which is not just new light bulbs, okay? It may be a more modern, efficient, less energy consuming motor. Okay, there's a whole bunch of stuff that they can do. The time frame is 25 years where they recommend modernizations. And I'm not gonna lie about this, but I'm gonna blow you away how much this stuff costs. There's always variables. If we've got 41 stories like that tower over there, that's gonna be a lot more expensive than a 5-story. Obviously, you get that stuff, right? But as an average, a hydraulic modernization could be $110,000 to $130,000 per car. If you have a traction style, that could be $220,000 to $250,000 per car. You see out here, they got 7 of them? Whoa. Okay, that gets expensive really, really fast. I'm not lying, those are real numbers. So that's a big thing. But all you got to do is check marks, right? We got a list. We got pictures. All right, I want to hit some fire sprinkler stuff because, again, nobody goes to home inspector school and learns how to do elevators and ADA and fire stuff, right? And we'll hit some sprinkler head things. Why is this so important? Besides the obvious, fire safety. Any firefighters, by the way? There's always a firefighter. You can't criticize me then if I screw up, and you won't know it. Why it's so important besides the obvious stuff? Because NFPA 25 says the building owner or occupant shall not make changes when you're changing occupancy, when you're changing use. You can't do any of that stuff without the fire marshal coming in and making sure that the existing system is going to be adequate, thank you, was the word I was looking for, adequate for the new use. If you're going from a daycare to storage of foam and plastics, and I mean, completely, totally different engineering goes into those systems, right? So it's going to cost somebody money, okay? So always tell people, this is why it's so important to be aware of and be able to report on some of these things. It's going to cost people money. So I'm just going to hit some baseline stuff. First of all, you got to have some room, okay? And it's very common, you get into the fire riser room and they've got storage in front of it, and all this, it's got to be accessible. But this was brand new construction, and they got plants in front of the backflow. It's a check mark on my report. This is easy, right? I told you this is so easy. Are you fired up? Hell yes. All right. Okay, now you don't want people shutting your stuff off, right? So guess what? The Big Book of Rules says you got to have some type of anti-tampering device, all right? It can be a chain and a lock. You see chains on them all the time, right? There can be electronic anti-tampering things. That's what those are, right? Sometimes it could just be a seal like this, or a lock on there. This right there is a PIV, okay? Post indicator valve. We only use fancy words in here. Well, today I can use doo-doo, caca, poo-poo, but when you leave here, you fancy words only, right? Okay, PIV. There's got to be anti-tampering because you don't want people to shut the water off. What is a PIV? All it is it literally turns the water on and off. Right? So when you get there, you want to look for that in that little window. It better say open. If somebody has cranked it closed, well, now all of a sudden you don't have water. And fire breaks out, bad things happen. How hard is it to look inside the window? Right? This is so easy. And it's just another thing on the list. It's got an anti-tampering device. So if somebody does mess with it, it sends a little signal and says, hey, someone's messing with me, and somebody can come fix it or make an arrest, right? So it should be open. If you showed up and it didn't say open right there, it said shut, what would that be? That would be a big red flag, yes.
And the ones that actually for the fire.
Where are you from? What state? All right, so in Rhode Island, apparently there's something that says, thou shalt not do fire evaluations. Okay, that's fine. I would put it in the report that under this law, it requires, and whatever that requirement says, put something, but I can include that. Yeah. Gotcha. So this is what it looks like. Once this is in your head, it'll stay there, right? It just goes down to the water line and then turns water on or off. So if you have to service something, you can shut it down, service the thing, and then open it back up. But that's all it is. That's an FDC, Fire Department Connection. So in this case, you'd have a couple guys jump off the back of the truck with each got a hose, and they pop it on there, and they're pumping water into the system. So it gives them more water, more pressure, makes it more efficient. That's all that is. So FDC, picture, simple stuff. There's one. It's accessible. It's labeled. It should always have a label on it. It'll always say FDC, Fire Department Connection. So here we've got an alarm and a part of a fire riser, right? When you have, I think it's 24 or 30 heads, then you have to have an alarm. So when the alarm's going off, that means there's water going through that system, and it's letting everybody know there's a problem. When I look at these two, well, I know exactly where the fire riser room is. It's right on the other side of this wall, right? The risers can be inside or outside. You'll find both. Now, you don't have to, you're not going to operate anything on these. You don't touch them, right? But we can all take pictures. That's simple. 5th grade here, y'all. Easy peasy. You want to get, the certification stuff. You want to get pictures of these things. Now, of these pictures, 2 of them are legible. Whoops, darn it. Sorry. I don't know how to go backwards. 2 of them you couldn't read. And what good does, oh, there it goes. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Lord. God's got my back, baby. Your Your client can't read that. Is it current or not? Don't know. This is giving me information too. This is telling me it's a wet pipe system. You're going to get a lot of information on there, dates, right? This you can't read. I can see the gauge. That's nice. That helps. But, just as a professional thing, get a close-up picture so you can read it. Your fire-rise rooms should have a sign. Got a picture. Simple, right? There's two basic types of systems, okay? You have a wet pipe system and a dry pipe system. Ours asks, and the field observer checks which one it is. So you got to learn a little bit. It's not hard. It's really easy, okay? A wet pipe system means the entire thing is full of water all the time, okay? So the riser comes up and the branches go out to the rooms and the spaces that it's protecting. The water always in there. That's a wet pipe system. Simple. Dry pipe system means there's no water past this valve right here. So it's all air. So, we've got a concealed head right here. There would be no water in that pipe going to that head. Okay, that's a dry pipe system. And you wonder, okay, all you guys live north of I-10, don't answer. But why in the world would you want a dry pipe system then? Freezing. Yeah, there you go. You're obviously from north of I-10. If it's subject to freezing, that would be a bad thing. So hence, the dry pipe system has its uses. But now you know. Probably. Makes sense. This, they call it a clam valve or something similar to that. So there's water up to it, right? And so a fire breaks out. It tells the head, it activates the head. Now all of a sudden you're losing pressure in these pipes, and then so something else another valve is going to open up the clam valve and start letting water out, fills the system, and water is dispersed. So that is a very basic explanation of how a dry pipe system works. Pretty simple. So the big question is, how do you tell the difference, right? I'm glad you asked. Well, when it's a wet pipe system, I don't have that big valve right here, right? It's just one pipe because the whole thing is full of water. When I have this big, huge valve, this is the wet part and this is the dry part. I'm also going to have gauges on the dry part and the wet part. So it would be a good idea to get a picture of these gauges. If you can read, you're in luck, because a lot of them just say it. This is dry pipe. Dang. And in our system, when I review, sometimes I find it's wrong. So it's a good thing that we had a reviewer, right? If you're a solo operator, you're going to have to slow down, okay? And look, this one right here says wet system. That's cool. You can read it right on there. All right, there'll be a differential pressure because there's air holding back the water, right? And it's usually about a 3-to-1. I've heard they go up to 5-to-1, but they'll be so that one's 40-ish and the bottom's 120-ish something. So that's about a 3-to-1, right? That's going to help me identify, well, this is definitely a dry pipe system. So not real hard to identify, right? This is a static system. The same exact thing that's bringing water to your house. The pipe comes up, and all of your pipes are full of water. You open up the kitchen sink, water comes out, right? Same exact thing. So it's a static pressure. So there won't be that differential pressure. See how simple? Love it. So I got one gauge. Wet pipe system, right? I haven't lost anybody, have I? I don't think I can't see anybody. But okay, if something said 0, that would be a big red flag, right? And you're the fire guy? Okay, don't laugh out loud. But feel free to correct me if I'm going wrong, if I'm saying anything wrong. Am I all right so far? So far. All right, cool. Well, there's your FDC, Fire Department Connection, right? And those couple guys are going to jump off the truck and hook up, and now you have more water, higher pressure, more efficient system, right? So it's just a big pipe serving a bunch of little pipes, just like a house. If you break it down and think about it like that, 5th grade level, it really makes it simple. Yep, FDC. Okay. Bam. That was my whole point in that. So, simple picture. There are other basic types, and all I want to do is mention, just so you're aware. But like the example I gave you before, if you are converting from a daycare to a storage facility where you're storing foam and products, chemicals, and stacked all the way to the ceiling, these are going to be drastically different engineered systems, okay? The biggest thing when you have specialized storage or dissimilar things like a normal commercial space, the biggest thing is how much water is moving through that little device, okay, those sprinkler heads. That's the biggest thing, and I've got some pictures, but they are, you might see these imprinted on the heads or something like that, letting you know that it's a very specific engineered type of head for that very specific application. It may be the deflector is a different pattern. It makes the water droplet bigger. There's real engineering that goes into this, and we don't have to know any of that, just so you're aware. Makes sense, all right? Okay, like I said, the biggest thing, fancy words here only, the K factor. That's how much water. Bigger hole, more water. I'm sorry, fancy words. Bigger orifice, bigger K factor, right? Okay, those are some of the biggest things. How much water they're delivering, how fast it's deploying the water, for very specific applications. And that's all I got, because they look the same. It's not like you look up and you go, oh, that sprinkler head is something special, right? They look the same. So you don't know by looks. If you have heads that are subject to damage, you'll probably see some type of a cage, something that protects it, right? All right, so pictures. That's always the best. Inspector porn, right? What do you see? Well, I gave you the answer. If you can't read, I'll help. Something's leaked. That would be a bad thing, right? That's an easy identification picture in your report. That wasn't hard. Here you are criticizing a fire system, right? We aren't even firemen. Damn right. We need a badge or something, all right? Okay, so it's not hard to get visuals like this. If I walk up and look at the panel and it says, hey, silly, we got, Will Robinson, there's a problem. I've got idiot lights that says there's something wrong. I don't have to know exactly what it is. I just say what I see. If you describe exactly what you see, you can't be wrong. You'll never be wrong. Is that amazing? Supervisory noted at the fire alarm panel, have the fire guy evaluate. That wasn't hard. What do you see there? Yeah, it's been painted. You see the corrosion. It's leaked. Okay, that's bad. Wow. This is amazingly simple, right? Again, looks like it's leaked, right? And it's got a broken bracket there. Yep. Ooh, what do you see here? Anybody but the fire guy can answer. It's blocked. That's right. So if a fire broke out, there's something in its way. So that head may not be able to disperse water on the source and put it out. So this is how you think. I always, the macro-micro approach. I walk into the room and I stand there first and I just get the overall picture. And I see something like that. That was easy. Picture, defect, recommend repair. Simple, right? Because you see this all the time. Yes, that's a very simple fix. I get it. But now you recognize the problem. So if the fire broke out down here somewhere, that may not be any good. Or it's going to take a lot longer for the water to get down there to the fire, right? There is, and I would not attempt to cite that on every single application because it's going to, may vary. Yeah. Now, the only thing that I know is consistent is it's got to be 4 inches off the wall. Like minimum, can't be closer than that. But I'm sure there's a lot of... No more than 6 feet what? Okay. Yeah, all that stuff will be engineered, right? Laid out. So, well, that's a good point. What happens in commercial buildings? The interiors are modified all the time. And now all of a sudden, you walk in an office and, this poor sap's only got one receptacle. He's got 2 returns, no supplies, and 1 receptacle. Or you see that kind of stuff all the time. So, yeah, very, very good point there. Uh-oh, that's the end of my presentation. If the obstacle is permanent, well, you just go around it. Not that hard, okay? All right, sprinkler heads. Guess what the main purpose of a sprinkler head is? Hang your clothes on. Amen. That's why every hotel has, hey, dummy, don't hang anything on here, right? Okay. Well, its main job is to disperse water to put out fires. And if you don't know, this is really interesting stuff. This little bulb right here is heat sensitive, and it will break, depending on the color, at a specific temperature, okay? So the primary components that we have here, the seal is what keeps the water in, right? The activator, heat-sensitive activator there is what lets the water out. The deflector will be designed for whatever application it's designed for, how to disperse the water, how wide, how big the droplets are, all that kind of stuff. And we don't have to know any of that, just so you have the concept, right? Almost all the ones you see are red, but occasionally you'll come in and you'll see different colors, and they break at different temperatures for different applications. But again, that's all engineered stuff. I would probably look for consistency, though, right? I got a black one here and a red one next to it, and then a blue one. Well, something's not right. Follow your hunch. And the good thing is you don't have too many handymen working on fire sprinkler systems. Those just screw them up. But now you know. Now, if it doesn't have that little bulb that breaks, they're usually full of a glycerin that's very, very sensitive to temperature, so that's how they can control it. But there's also linkage type sprinkler heads. Okay, not that there's anything wrong with them. They're just different. And the same thing, they're heat sensitive and they break at different things. I took this picture and I'm reading it, and it says antique, vintage, rare, 1995. And I'm like, what the hell does that make me? I'm a freaking walking cadaver, right? That's vintage, antique. Like, damn, that's harsh is what that is. There's all kinds of different looking ones, so don't be alarmed, pun intended, when you see a linkage type thing. Okay, extra heads, you have to have them. It's in the big book of rules. Okay, it says thou shalt have extra heads. That's what it says right there, right? Now, this is the easiest place to identify the manufacturer, and that's very, very important to identify the manufacturer. I'll show you why in a second. But here, I can just pick it up, put it in my hand, and take a picture. These extra heads are a requirement, and the quantity of heads depends on the size of the existing system. If you have less than 300, which is going to be most of our jobs, okay, then you got to have half a dozen of them. If you have 300 to 1,000, you got to have 12. If you have over that, then you got to have 24. You don't have to memorize this stuff, write it down somewhere, and you always can refer it. The good thing, the vast majority of the spaces that we do are going to have half a dozen of them. They also have to have that little wrench in there. So that's just a component. This is a simple picture. I'm going to get a couple pictures out of this, right? Now I'll have a contextual macro shot of the whole riser room. I'm going to start outside. I got a picture of the room that's labeled fire riser room, right? And then I have the contextual picture of the whole system. Then I can go into components and stuff like that. But this is real easy. I can pick it up and document. It's a Rasco. Simple. If you don't have those, you can't find them, they're gone, missing, vandalized, whatever, you will have to get on a ladder and get a picture, not in here because these are concealed, but most of them will be exposed. You got to get that manufacturer. Okay, 4 basic types of heads. You have an upright, very, very common. You pendant, same exact thing, but that points down. Concealed like we have here, right? And then sidewalls, and they have different applications. We don't have to figure any of that stuff out. Now you know the language, and you sound smart, and if Alex Trebek asks you, you'll win, okay? These are by far the most common, right? They cover a lot of area. All this stuff, again, is engineered. Pendants, uprights, sidewalls when there's a soffit or something like that, and fancy concealed ones when you have a nice high-class place like this, and you don't want them to be seen. One thing I would say about these, and hopefully it's the next picture, yes, okay, a manufacturer makes them and it sends it to a testing place that tests them and makes sure everything functions properly, right? Well, they ship them with the little cap thing on them, because that's how they're tested. And the cap thing will release at a certain temperature, and then now your head is exposed, and it's just like a pendant or an upright. Now it functions just the same, okay? But if you're seeing these missing, that's a defect. Simple. There you go, minimum distance, 4 inches off a wall. The only time... Okay, keep in your mind when you're going through a place that has been modified, they've moved walls and stuff, does each space have a head? I'm not going to go into any type of engineering and spacing unless it's something really odd and it's right up next to the wall and well, that's odd. You've never seen that before, right? Follow your hunch. Okay, some more porn. What do you see? There you go, yeah, cap missing and corrosion. A couple defects there. That would need to be duct taped, right? Or painted. Spray foam, okay. They make it easy. Anything, any defect is a replacement. Very simple, right? So you can come up with your own disclosures, but feel free to copy what I have here, that's fine. It's old, but it looks pretty corroded, right? So corrosion noted, it's very old, maybe obsolete. Okay? Can't miss it. Yeah, big time. So pay attention. You're going to have to slow down and pay attention and look at these heads, right? Evidence of leaks. Yeah, painted, bad. We talked about those are temperature sensitive. Now you alter that sensitivity. Now all of a sudden the thing takes forever to activate. Well, now the fire spreads bigger, farther. Bad things happen. There's this cobweb city or something there. They got extra heads. They're dangling on a coat hanger. But they got them. What do we say, Hank? Bless their heart. Bless their heart. Okay, kind of hard for the thing to disperse water with a cap on it, huh? This is Hank's room here. We were hanging out last night, and he had stuff hanging on it. So let me get a picture of that. Wow. Yeah, you paint the heat-sensitive thing that releases the water, right? You add insulation to the thing that, right? Good stuff. Or wrap it in rags, whatever floats your boat. Yeah. Okay, the reason why you have to get the manufacturer, there's been a ton of recalls. I know that comes as a shock to some of you, right? Tons of recalls on sprinkler heads. Here's a list of them coming up next, but there's been a ton of those recalls. You don't have to memorize. You will naturally memorize them after a little while, but you always have something to refer back to. And it is in the Big Book of Rules. Remember, we looked at NFPA 25. It says it's required to have the inspection on change of use or occupancy. Here it's telling you if there's a defect, the owner is responsible for replacing. So if something bad happens, someone's getting in trouble. It's defined who's getting in trouble. Now, it's your job not to miss simple stuff like this. But there's your recalls. Feel free to take a picture. Or you do a Google search, you'll find a ton of these things. Are we good? All right. And guess what? We have a canned statement. It says something like, this may be on a recall list, okay? I'm not going to be definite. When you look these up, they give you a list of serial numbers and stuff like that and years that are recalled. So is the one I'm looking at within there? I don't know. I'm not going to go to that extreme to look it up, but I'm going to say it might be, that's what our canned statement says. It might be on that list because it is a Gemo ring. It's a Central. It's a whatever. Could be, yes.
Zero rings,
Ouch. Okay, so there's Central, there's Globe. So this is easy peasy stuff. This is George Jetson Manufacturing Company right here. Some Omegas. Those are funny looking, right? Antique, vintage. Walking cadaver, right? All right, so I think I'm good on time, right? And I covered everything so well, there's probably no questions whatsoever. However, if you can think of anything, I'll be happy to try to discuss.